When you go to the feed store, you see all these different feeds with all these different pictures of horses on the front, but none of them really tell you what you need to be buying, and that's different for everybody. Some horses need more energy and some need less. So the only thing you can really look at is the feed tag, but a lot of people don't read it. They just tear it off to give to the cashier so she can scan it. So I'll go through a couple of the basics today and help you pick out a feed that's really better for your horse. A lot of the problems people face is they have a horse that's unruly and he's overactive and he's too energetic and they can't deal with him and they attribute it to bad behavior, and really it's just too much energy in his feed. He could stand to have a lower energy level. This is the Producer's brand 12% horse pellet. You can get it at Tractor Supply and a lot of people buy it. It's just nice little pelleted feed, and that's good because it helps the horse digest it better, whereas a feed that's less processed will actually give the horse less nutrients, and you'll feed it to the birds when the horse passes it through. So this one only has 12% protein, and that's good because that's the most protein an adult horse will ever need. A foal or a colt might need about 14% protein because he's growing and he needs help building those muscles, but when they get older they don't need that much. It's got a really high fiber level. It's 21% fiber, and that actually will tell you the energy level. The more fiber there is, the less energy there is. So this is a really low energy maintenance feed for a horse that's not doing a whole lot of heavy work. It could be just a pleasure horse that you don't really take out a whole lot. This is Purina Omeline 200 Performance. It's considered to be for horses that are doing sports, rodeo, working harder. It's got 14% protein, which again, you don't particularly need that much protein, but I mean, it could work. And then this has only, it's only got 7.5% fiber, so it's a really high energy level feed. So if you have a horse that you're feeding this and he's not doing a whole lot and he's really just being a pleasure horse, he's probably really, really hopped up on sugar. And if he's acting up, this is probably why. Whereas if you have a horse that's really lethargic whenever he's trying to work, he could stand to be on something like this. This is a textured feed, whereas the other was a pelleted, and you can see that because it's got corn and it's got little pieces of oat and stuff in it, and that's okay for some horses. It's supposed to give them more nutrients, but a pelleted feed never hurt anybody. It's a sweeter feed, so they'll eat it better. Triumph, it has got 14% protein and then 12% fiber. So it's got more energy than the first feed, but less than the second feed. It's also textured. You can see it's got little pieces of oat, and it's got the pellets in it, and it's kind of sticky, so you know it's going to be sweeter, and the horse is probably going to like to eat it better. And this can be good for breeding stock, whereas something with a little lower energy is not necessarily as good, because the stallion or the mare kind of needs that burst of energy to do what they need to do. This is another pelleted feed. It's Purina Strategy Professional Formula GX. It's 14% protein again, and it's 12.50% fiber. It's 14% protein, and it's 12.5% fiber, and that means it's going to have an okay energy level, and it's pretty much maintenance level. It's not performance horses so much. I mean, if you try to give this to a race horse, he's not going to do very well. It's not got enough energy in it. But if you're just having a pleasure horse, it's not a bad idea. This is Purina also. Textured feed. You can see all little pieces, and it's really, really sticky, so you know it's really, really sweet. Because it's Purina Horseman's Edge 14% sweet feed. It's got 14% protein. Pretty much if it's a 14% feed or 12% feed, they're referring to the protein. And then it's got 8.5% fiber. So quite a bit of energy, and it's probably all the sugar in there. It's got some molasses, I believe, and that's what makes it so sweet, and it also puts just a burst of sugar on them. Tree Acres Horse Pellet, 14% again. It's got 14% protein, and then for the fiber, it's got 15% fiber. It's not a very high energy level feed, so it's good for a maintenance horse. You can see it's textured, it's got corn and all that, but it's not sticky and it's not sweet. So they're probably not going to want to eat this as much, but it's not going to give them a jittery sugar high either, so that's not a bad thing. A few things to remember is that if you need to bump up a horse's energy level and you don't really want to change feeds, a quick, easy way to do that is just buy some vegetable oil. Put a little bit on top of the feed, and then let him get used to it, gradually adding more and more until you get the desired energy level. But if you just dump a whole bunch of oil on that feed, he's not going to want to eat it. It's going to feel gross in his mouth, so you have to give him a while to get used to that. If you just pile sugar on him, he's going to be just like a kid on sugar. He's going to be okay for a little while, and he's going to have a lot of energy, but then suddenly he's going to crash and he's not going to do so good. And you got to remember with protein, a lot of people say they need to bump up the protein to bump up the energy level, and that is not true. Protein is actually harder to metabolize into energy, so you're taking away their energy level. So those are a few things to consider. And to recap, a pleasure horse that's not really doing a whole lot needs about 12% protein if he's an adult. All adult horses pretty much only need 12% protein. Any more than that's not going to hurt him, but any less isn't good. I mean, they're not going to die if they get 12% protein. They're fine. And then colts could use a little more protein because they're still building all their muscle. They're still growing, and it helps them get stronger, bigger, better. And then a pleasure horse, he doesn't need a whole lot of energy, especially if he's not being heavily worked. If you're just riding him around the block, pick a feed with really high fiber because it's going to have really low energy, and he'll be more manageable for you. Whereas if you're feeding him high energy feed, he's going to take off down the street because he's got so much energy to burn. But if you're roping, barrel racing, cutting, pretty much doing anything that requires a whole lot of work out of the horse, if you're not giving him enough energy, he's going to putter out and he's not going to do so good. And you might think you have a dud horse and sell him, and someone else wins on him because they're feeding him right. So you just have to make sure you're giving them the right energy level for what they're needing to do.